Good morning, everyone. So, today's lecture is on the solid waste transfer and disposal. So, as we know that one of the major concerns to the environment in the present scenario is the accumulation of solid waste. And the solid waste which are accumulated from different sources, they have to be disposed of. And if they are not disposed of properly, then it is harmful for the environment. Now, the major objectives of today's lecture is we will briefly discuss about the different types of solid waste, methods of solid waste transportation, and the methods of solid waste disposal. Now, the first question that comes to mind when we discuss about solid waste management is what is solid waste? So, solid waste comprises of all the wastes arising from human and animal activities that are typically solid and that are discarded or as useless or unwanted substances. It is all inclusive of the heterogeneous mass from the urban community as well as more heterogeneous accumulation of agricultural and industrial wastes. So the sources of solid waste is massive. Okay, as I said that we can start from our houses, we can go to a nearby shop, we can go to a chemist's shop, we can go to supermarkets, we can go to hospitals, we can go to schools, colleges, offices. Everywhere there will be solid waste. And as long as there is human population in a particular place, generation of solid waste is essential. We cannot do away without solid waste generation. The only way to reduce solid waste generation is to cut down on population. If you go to places, where human population is scarce, where human population is less, it is but natural that the generation of solid waste will be less. But wherever there is human population, wherever there is settlement, generation of solid waste is a must. Okay, because you're eating food. Suppose we are having vegetables, we are having fruits, we are peeling them, we are generating the waste. Okay, then we are drinking milk, we are consuming them through bottles or maybe through plastic bottles or glass bottles. Then we have plastic containers. Okay, so all of them are basically considered to be a part of solid waste. Then let's come to the different types of goods that we use in our day-to-day life. Mainly, we cannot live without our phones nowadays. Then we have our laptops, we have a desktop, we have headphones, earphones, we have an iPod, maybe, or we have a tab. So these are all categorized under electronic gadgets, and lots of people have different types of electronic gadgets. Then we have a significant amount of the waste, solid waste that we have is coming from the biomedical waste. Okay, so if you go to the hospital, if you go to the blood bank, or if you have a pet, you're taking that pet to a veterinary shop, you will have those used syringes, you will have the cotton buds, okay, that have been used, you'll have scissors, you'll have unused medicines. So these are all part of the biomedical waste. And of course, apart from the e-waste, biomedical waste, we have the general solid refuse waste. Okay, that includes everything that is solid from our homes. Okay, so if we have to categorize solid waste, then largely they can be the major types, and they are like the e-waste or the electronic waste, biomedical waste, and solid refuse waste. These are the three most large or basic categorization of solid waste. Now, why solid waste? It's a consequence of life. Now, as we can see that the relationship between public health and improper storage, collection, and disposal of solid waste is quite clear. And the consequence, of improper disposal of solid waste can be very well highlighted with the following examples. So you can see that what happened is that if you now the next thing that I'm coming to is that if we are a huge population and we are generating such a large amount of solid waste, then solid waste, if you are generating them, if you are creating them, then they have to be disposed also. Because if solid waste which are being generated in our society are not properly disposed, then it can create havoc. And see, for example, in the first picture we can see that the improper disposal of solid waste, it causes plague because of breeding of rats, flies, and other disease vectors. So if we have utilized different types of solid waste, whatever it may be, and then we dispose them off, we just throw them off, then what happens is if they're not properly taken care of, then rats will come and feed on them, flies will come and feed on them, and they will then go and sit on something and we will be using them, and that is how plague starts, okay, from rats and flies. So it is a disease carrying vector like rats and flies, and what's the breeding ground for them? These wastes, okay. So all this waste, the domestic waste, the biomedical waste, anything that is coming out of our houses, if we are not disposing them of properly, we are not throwing them in a proper enclosed area, we are just letting them lie open, then they act as the breeding ground of all these disease carrying vectors. Second, in the second picture, we can see that improper landfilling of solid waste attributes to water pollution. So, landfills are created, they are huge waste collecting grounds, okay. However, if the waste is not properly collected in those grounds, then what happens is that waste starts leaching, it starts seeping through the cracks in the soil, and the underground water, it gets completely polluted. Okay, so it leads to water pollution. So landfills are huge land masses which are created for dumping the waste, because all this waste from the entire city that we are collecting, they have to be dumped at one place or the other. So where we are dumping them, the dumping ground has to be taken care of, because if it is not properly taken care of, then that waste or all those, the rotting things, it starts leaching into the groundwater and causes groundwater pollution. And of course, if there is improper landfilling, it attributes to air pollution and contributes to the greenhouse gases. Okay, so that is why it is very important that why solid waste, though generated, it has to be properly taken care of. Now, here we are going to discuss, we are going to see a few instances which will tell us as to how solid waste is it affected us in the recent years. So the first one, as we can see, the cloud burst in Mumbai 2005. It clogged, the waste lines due to the large number of plastic bags. Now, this is a serious concern, because that is why nowadays we are banning plastics, because if we are using excessive amount of plastic, then what will happen, it clogs pipes and waterways, and people go and dump things in the seas and oceans, and the aquatic animals, they suffer largely because of this plastic dumping. Secondly, the area of the dump yard in Chennai has doubled over the last decade, and clogging of the drains due to indiscriminate dumping of solid waste and construction debris is another major reason for floods, and that happened in 2015. Then next we see that the blast in the Bhushan Steel factory at Noida, it was caused due to improper or imported scrap from iron. So scrap material, they are nothing but they're the metal wastes, okay. Then reduction in the number of migratory birds due to consumption of contaminated foods. Then stray animals dying on streets and farmland due to consumption of plastic bags, which block the food movement in their stomach. And fires in Mumbai and Delhi dump sites. So these are in the recent times, because of improper waste disposal. These are some of the hazards that human beings have faced, and that is why how we, like animals and human beings, which are both of us, are an important part of the environment, and they have been severely affected. And that is why it is very important that the solid waste which is being generated by the masses, they are properly taken care of. Now, as I said that in this lecture, we are basically going to talk about transfer or transport of different types of solid waste, and how we are going to see that we are going to talk about each type of solid waste and how we can dispose them. So now we have the transfer or transportation of solid waste. Now there are a few criteria that have to be followed when we talk about transfer or transportation of solid waste, because all kinds of solid waste, they cannot be easily transferred or transported. There are a few criteria which have to be adhered to while transferring or transporting of solid waste. So the more common as the distance of landfill sites become greater. Okay, so it's most common in larger metropolitan areas, variance in type, size, and degree of sophistication. Example, open air stations are enclosed in a building. So they're saying that if you are talking about a bigger city, then the landfill site also has to be very, very large, because if you do not have a large enough landfill site, then we cannot fill that landfill site that we have. So it's very important that it is most common in larger metropolitan areas. There is variance in type, size, and degree of sophistication. Then it is better to have, wherever we want to dispose of that waste, solid waste, that dumping area or whatever physical or chemical process we are going to treat that solid waste to, that area should be near the collecting area where we are collecting. The collecting site and the treatment side of the solid waste should not be very far off, because if it is very far off, then you have to spend a significant amount of money on the transportation. That is why it is suggested that the treatment area should be in close proximity to the collection area to minimize the collection crew time for haul to the transfer station. Next, it is accessible to major haul routes, public acceptance and economics, lower transfer haul cost. Next, we will have adequate land area to provide isolation. So that is also very important, because if at all, this material or whatever we need to dispose of, if they are collected from the collection site, and once we have collected them from the collection site, they are transported off to the treatment site, then there has to be adequate land area for providing isolation. Then next, they have to have suitable zoning, that is commercial or industrial zoning, that is very important. And also, when they talk about a treatment area for the process of transfer or transportation, they should have proper utilities, like they should have water, sanitary sewers, storm drainage, electricity, etc. So these are some of the criteria that have to be met with for proper transfer and transportation of any kind of solid waste from the collection site to the treatment site. Because if these criteria are not met, then transfer or transportation of solid waste becomes very, very difficult, and it also becomes very costly. We cannot afford to make the transfer or transportation process of solid waste very expensive. So that is why it is very important that these criteria are met, so that this transfer or transportation of solid waste from the collection site to the treatment site is carried out efficiently. Now, the first type of waste we are going to talk about is the electronic waste, which in short is known as e-waste. So electronic waste or e-waste, it comprises of waste, electronic or electrical goods which are not fit for their originally intended use. Obviously, nowadays we see that if you're using a smartphone, then after every 2 to 3 years you have to change your smartphone. Now once it is gone bad, it's not working, what do? You just throw them off. So these include items such as computers, phones, stereos, refrigerators, air conditioners, everything. They're all electronic goods, right? And once they are not in use, what do? Either you repair their parts, or you just throw them away, or you replace them with a new one. Okay, but even if you're replacing them, you are sending it off to the shop. But what are those people doing with those electronic gadgets? Okay, so you have to think that what is the end result of the waste electronic goods. Okay, you are replacing it with a new one, okay, by exchanging it in a shop. But what are the shop people doing with those electronic goods? Are they putting them in proper use, or are they just throwing them off in the dump yard? So that is what they have to properly take care of. Now, is electronic waste hazardous? Now, e-waste is not hazardous waste per se. However, the hazardous constituents which are present in the e-waste render it hazardous when such wastes are dismantled and processed, since it is only at this stage that they pose hazard to health and environment. So as such, if you just keep them not used, if you have a phone, very old phone, and if you keep that phone with you for a very long period of time, then it is not going to cause any harm. But the hazard with electronic wastes are when you dismantle them or when you process them, you try to do something with it. Okay, is the time when the hazard to health and environment starts. So if you just keep them unused or untouched, then they are going to remain just as it is. But if you try to dismantle it, you try to work with it, okay, process it, then it becomes hazardous. Now, what are the toxic constituents which are present in the e-wastes? Okay, so we have the components like you have a printed circuit board, then you have a cathode ray tubes, switches and flat screen monitors, then you have computer batteries, then you have capacitors and transformers, then you have printed circuit boards, plastic casing cable, and cable insulation coating. So these are the different components which are present in any kind of electronic goods. Now, because of the presence of these components in any kind of electronic good, when you dismantle them or when you process them, what are the constituents which pose a threat? Like you have chemicals like lead and cadmium, lead oxide and cadmium, mercury, cadmium, PCB, which is carcinogenic, okay, brominated flame retardant, and PVC or polyvinyl chloride. So these are the very harmful, like mercury is not good for health at all, cadmium, polychlorinated biphenyls, they're very dangerous. So when we keep an electronic good unused or untouched for a very long period of time, it is, as per se, it's not harmful or hazardous. But the hazard in an electronic waste starts when we try to open them, dismantle them, reprocess them. Only then all these components, they are interfered with, and the constituents of these components, none of them are friendly to the health or environment. That is when an electronic waste becomes hazardous. That is why it is also very important that e-waste should not be kept unused for a very long period of time. At one point of time or the other, they should be disposed of. Now, as we see here, that why disposal of e-waste is necessary. Now, landfill disposal, if you carry out of e-waste, then it allows heavy metals to leach into groundwater. So if we take this e-waste into sanitary landfills, then what happens is that those heavy metals which are present in electronic waste, they eventually leach into the groundwater and causes pollution. Then incineration is burning these goods at a high temperature. It makes hazardous material airborne. Acid baths are dangerous and cause water and soil contamination. Exported materials need to be handled carefully. So if in case of e-waste, you cannot take them to sanitary landfills or you cannot incinerate them, because either landfilling or incineration is not the solution for e-waste, and we know why. Because landfill, it causes groundwater pollution, and incineration causes air pollution. Okay, so what is the option which is left then for disposal of e-waste? Now, the best possible option which is given for e-waste disposal is recycling. As I said in the beginning, that for any kind of solid waste, we say that the 3 R's are used for the management. They are reuse, reduce, and recycle. Now, obviously, if you reduce the consumption of any kind of good, then the amount of waste generation will also be less. It goes without saying. Okay, but it is always not practical. We think in our head that we are going to reduce our consumption, but can we reduce our consumption to a great extent? No, we cannot. Okay, though we think that we are going to reduce it, we cannot. So then if we cannot reduce our consumption to a large extent, then we have to think that the waste that we are producing, how we can reuse them. And if we cannot reuse them, then we can recycle them. So these are the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle, which largely manages or takes care of all kinds of solid waste which are generated. So as we saw that in case of electronic waste, landfilling or incineration is not the solution. So the only solution for e-waste disposal is recycling. So recycling is the best method for disposing e-waste. Now, what all are involved in the process of recycling of e-waste? So you have disassembly and dismantling. Okay, so if you have to recycle an e-waste, the first thing that you have to do is that an old electronic gadget, you have to disassemble, you have to dismantle them. That is systematic removal of components or parts from e-waste. Now, the second point or the second step in recycling an e-waste is upgrading. It includes separation of materials using mechanical or physical process. Methods to recover material includes incineration and refining. And the third step is material recovery. Materials are recovered by recycling facilities. So out of those waste material, you have to take out things which you can again use for a new product. That is how you are going to recycle them. Okay. So you have to recover certain materials. So these are the 3 steps which are necessary for recycling of an e-waste: disassembly and dismantling. Next is upgrading, and then you have material recovery. Now, what are the advantages of recycling e-waste? As we know that landfilling and incineration are not the options for disposal of e-waste, and the only option for e-waste disposal is recycling. What are the advantages? We have asset recovery, reduction of need for landfills. Next, you have reduction of junk and clutters. Obviously, we are reducing the amount of junks. Then we have resale and reuse, and of course we are creating new jobs because we are recycling the electronic gadgets. So these are some of the advantages that we can see for recycling of e-waste. Now the next type of solid waste that we are going to talk about is the biomedical waste. So first let us see as to what we mean by a biomedical waste. Any waste which is generated during the diagnosis, treatment, or immunization of humans, animals, research activities pertaining to or testing of biological samples or in health camps. Okay. Now, the different sources of biological or biomedical waste can be hospitals and nursing homes, clinics and dispensaries, animal homes, or places where you keep animals, pathological labs where all kinds of tests are done. You have blood banks, you have health camps, forensic labs, and vaccination camps. Okay. And so biomedical waste is anything that is coming out of any of these sources. And it is very important to segregate biomedical waste because there are so many types of different things involved in a biomedical waste. We cannot dump biomedical waste together. It is very important that we carry out categorization and segregation of biomedical waste. Only when biomedical wastes are properly segregated or categorized can you carry on to the next set of disposal. If biomedical waste collected from any of these sources, they are not categorized or segregated, then it is very difficult to dispose them of. Now, what is the disposal? So you have human anatomical waste. How are they disposed? Generally, they're incinerated. That is, they are heated at a very high temperature in a closed environment or deep burial in the ground. Then animal waste is also incineration or deep burial. Then microbiological or biotechnological waste, generally they carry out incineration, microwaving, or autoclaving. That is how we destroy these wastes. Then you have sharp wastes, chemical treatment and autoclaving. Discarded medicines, they are also incinerated and disposed of in secured landfills. Then there are certain liquid waste. So what do we do with the liquid waste? So they are treated chemically, they are treated, so they are disinfected, and then they are discharged into the drains. Then you have incineration ash, which are disposed of in the municipal landfills. Now the chemical waste, so chemical wastes, they are treated for disinfection, chemical treatment, and then they are discharged into the drains if it is liquid, and they're taken to the secured landfills if they are solid. So the five major ways of treating medical waste, they are incineration, thermal, that is autoclaving, that is basically by heating. Then you have irradiating, that is microwave, chemical, and biological. Okay, so these are the five most common ways of treating biomedical waste. So any category of the waste, biomedical waste you take, whether you collect them from the yellow bin or the red bin or the white bin or the blue bin, they can be treated by either of this method: incineration, thermal, that is autoclaving, irradiative, that is microwave, chemical, that is by disinfecting or chemical treatment, and biological, that is by making use of certain enzymes. Now we come on to the general solid refuse waste after electronic waste and the biomedical waste. Now the solid refuse waste involves any kind of other types of solid waste, any kind of other domestic waste, plastic bottles, glass bottles, vegetable and fruit peels, anything that you have. And the three most common ways of disposing them is incineration, composting, and landfill. So let's see what incineration is. So it is a one pit burning of plastic cans and have a severe negative environmental impact. So incinerators, they vary in temperature reached in primary waste chamber. Now they can have low temperature burning, that is less than 800 degrees centigrade. It is not recommended because it is environmentally hazardous. Medium temperature burning using dual chamber incinerators may cause glass vials to explode or partially melt, and it is also not recommended, and that is why it is always recommended that things are generally heated at a very high temperature. So at a temperature greater than 1000 degree centigrade, it is needed for safe destruction of glass vials. You can see that if you have to destroy any plastics or the glass, you cannot do them at a low temperature or a medium temperature, but it has to be carried out at a higher temperature of 1000 degree centigrade. Co-incineration in industrial furnaces, example cement kilns, will both inactivate and destroy the vials and can be done in partnership with an industrial facility. Ash and any other post-incineration residue must be treated as toxic waste and disposed of according to national or local management guidelines. So as we can see that it has to be done in a kiln. Okay, it is a cement kiln, and that is where this is a rotary kiln. We have a picture here which shows that where incineration can be effectively done. If you do it in an open space, then all the harmful gases go and mixes with the air and it causes air pollution, which is not ideal. So next is composting. This is another method of dealing with the solid waste. What is it? Composting of solid waste is the process of recycling them naturally. So this is generally the, the fruit or the vegetable peels or the waste that we have. We generally compost them. We convert them into manure. So using the natural process of decay to change the organic waste into valuable humus-like material called compost. So compost is nothing but humus or manure, which we can later use for treating the soil. Now, where do we carry out composting? We create a special compost pile or bin. It is established to control the air, water, food, and temperature, and it helps up the speeding of the decay process naturally. So, this is another method of taking care of the solid waste. So, incineration is taking care of plastic vials and the glass bottles, everything, by heating them at a higher temperature than 1000, because if you carry them out at a low or medium temperature, it is not good for the environment. And the second method of dealing with them is composting. And the third and last method of disposing of any kind of solid waste is landfills. So what is a landfill? An engineered facility for the disposal of municipal solid waste. It is designed and operated to minimize public health and environmental impacts. Typical landfill, it consists of several cells in which the waste is systematically placed. So there are layers by which the wastes are arranged. Landfill base is usually made up of a liner. So at the base of the landfill, there is generally a line which is made up of a clay or synthetic material, which prevents the waste from leaking into the ground. Okay. And wastes covered daily with soil, geomembranes or other cover materials to prevent lightweight wastes, dust and odors from escaping to discourage the vermin. Okay. So this is the design of a modern day landfill that we can have. So it is a huge area where all the municipal waste are taken and it is basically taken care of. So incineration, composting and sanitary landfills are the three major ways by which all other waste other than e-waste and biomedical waste can be taken care of. So this is the book from which I have taken my references for this presentation, and I hope by the end of this presentation the different types of solid wastes and their transfer and disposal methods or techniques is clear to everyone. That's all from my side for this lecture. Thank you.